Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh. Our top story for tonight, Trump hopes for Putin to move towards ending the war. All this and more on the Russia-Ukraine war coming up on AWANI International. Our top story for tonight, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to meet Vladimir Putin directly to try to end the war. He was speaking at the White House after talks with President Donald Trump and European leaders. Such a meeting would be their first face-to-face since 2019, more than 2 years before Russia's full-scale invasion. The Kremlin has yet to confirm whether the meeting will take place. Zelensky is facing growing pressure to give up territory as Russia advances on the battlefield. Ahead of the summit, Trump urged Ukraine to surrender Crimea and abandon its NATO ambitions, long-standing demands from Moscow. But Zelensky said he was able to give Trump a clearer picture of the front lines, with security guarantees for Kiev likely be worked out within 10 days. Trump earlier said those guarantees could come from European countries, coordinated with Washington. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says he hopes Russian President Vladimir Putin will move towards ending the war in Ukraine, but admits it is possible the Russian leader does not want to make a deal. Speaking on Fox News, Trump adds that he does not want to waste time on the conflict and wants it to end. He also ruled out sending US troops into Ukraine to help maintain any potential peace deal. Separately, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron are chairing a meeting of European leaders to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine if a deal is reached. After more than 3 years of war, some 5.7 million Ukrainians have sought refuge and asylum abroad, while an estimated 3.8 million remain internally displaced. Separately, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says Ukraine must not be forced to surrender the Donbas region. Speaking after a White House meeting with President US Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Merz compares Russia's demand to the US being asked to give up Florida. Moscow is seeking full control of the Donbas as a central condition to end the war, demanding Ukrainian forces withdraw from Donetsk and Luhansk.
During the talks, Merz said Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed in a phone call to meet Zelensky within 2 weeks, although the location had not yet been decided. While Trump expressed readiness to offer security guarantees for Ukraine, Merz said much of the responsibility has shifted to Europe. He stressed that genuine negotiations could only take place with Ukraine's participation and only after a complete ceasefire.
We have more after this break. Stay tuned.
Uniform Tentera Darat Malaysia TADM bagi peserta program latihan khidmat negara tidak seharusnya menjadi isu hangat.
Jenayah penipuan pelaburan mencatatkan jumlah kerugian tertinggi pada tahun ini setakat 2 Februari lalu.
Kementerian Pendidikan memandang serius isu peningkatan trend penggunaan rokok elektronik.
Lembaga Lebuh Raya Malaysia LLM memperluaskan larangan kenderaan berat memasuki lebuh raya pada waktu puncak di beberapa jajaran terpilih di sekitar Lembah Kelam.
One for the fans. Premier League, exclusive to Astro.
Welcome back. On to updates of the Gaza war. Hamas has confirmed that it has approved a ceasefire proposal which would include the release of half of the remaining Israeli hostages. Israel, however, continues to attack Gaza, killing 26 more. Hamas has accepted a 60-day ceasefire proposal mediated by Egypt and Qatar. That deal includes hostage and prisoner swaps and more aid access. Despite this, Israel continues to attack Gaza. Houses in southern Gaza City were attacked by Israeli forces and heavy fire was reported in eastern Gaza City, bringing the death toll to 26, according to Al Jazeera reporters. In Israel, mass protests are demanding the government to secure the release of hostages and end the war. While Hamas has signaled openness to peace, Israel has not officially responded and insisted that Hamas must disarm completely. A record 383 aid workers were killed in 2024, according to the United Nations, a 31% jump from the previous year, driven largely by conflicts in Gaza and Sudan. The UN says 181 humanitarian workers died in Gaza and 60 in Sudan. Most of the victims were local staff attacked either while on duty or at home.
In total, more than 300 workers were wounded, 125 kidnapped and 45 detained. State actors were identified as the most common perpetrators. The UN warned this year's toll is equally alarming, with 265 aid workers' deaths already recorded as of mid-August. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization confirmed more than 800 attacks on healthcare across 16 territories in 2025, killing over 1,100 health workers and patients.
While Israel is allowing some aid into Gaza, the United Nations Human Rights Office says it's not enough to prevent widespread starvation. UN officials blame Israel's restrictions on humanitarian supplies as the main cause, with Gaza authorities reporting 3 more Palestinian deaths from malnutrition. Amnesty International yesterday accused Israel of enacting a deliberate policy of starvation. So far, more than 250 Palestinians, including 110 children, have died of hunger during the blockade. Last week, Britain, Canada, Australia, Japan and several European allies urged Israel to allow unrestricted aid, calling the humanitarian crisis unimaginable. Some countries have resorted to aid drops, but critics warn these can be ineffective and dangerous, sometimes killing or injuring civilians. In other news, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un calls for a rapid expansion of the country's nuclear weapons capability. He cites ongoing military exercises between South Korea and the US as provocations aimed at igniting war.
According to state media, Kim said the situation requires swift and radical changes to North Korea's military strategy and practice. The US and South Korea began 11 days of joint exercises on Monday, including live fire drills that Kim claims involve what he calls nuclear elements. Tensions between the two Koreas remain high. Just last week, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung pledged to respect the North's political system and build military trust through dialogue. His remarks came a day after Pyongyang declared it had no interest in improving relations with Seoul.
Taiwan says it must depend on its own security after US President Donald Trump claimed Chinese President Xi Jinping promised China would not invade during his presidency. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Seow Kong-wei says Taiwan is monitoring high-level US-China talks while strengthening its defense capabilities and resilience.
Taiwan has in recent years faced rising military and political pressure from China. Though the US is its key arms supplier, it has no treaty obligation to defend Taiwan should China attack. Responding to Trump's remarks, Beijing reiterated Taiwan is an internal matter and that it seeks peaceful reunification and will never allow separation. China considers Taiwan part of its territory, a stance Taipei strongly rejects.
US President Donald Trump says he will sign an executive order to eliminate mail-in ballots and voting machines ahead of next year's midterm elections. In a post on Truth Social, he claims voting machines are highly inaccurate, expensive and controversial. However, he did not specify when the order would be signed.
Trump has long made unsubstantiated allegations that his 2020 election loss was the result of fraud. His push to end mail-in ballots is widely seen as an attempt to reshape the midterm landscape to his party's advantage. Democrat supporters are traditionally more likely to rely on mail-in ballots than Republicans. The elections, set for November 3, 2026, would be the first nationwide referendum on Trump's domestic and foreign policies since he returned to power in January.
In the United States, over 6,000 international students have had their visas revoked so far this year, according to the State Department. The cancellations cover a mix of issues: visa overstays, run-ins with the law, and some cases of alleged support for terrorism. Student visas have become a key focus in the Trump administration's wider immigration crackdown, with officials saying some foreign students promote ideas that go against U.S. foreign policy. Authorities have tightened screening, expanded social media checks, and instructed U.S. diplomats to scrutinize applicants seen as politically active or hostile. Of the 6,000 revoked visas, around 4,000 were for offences such as assault, drunk driving, and burglary. Between 200 and 300 were linked to alleged terrorism-related activities, including fundraising or support for Hamas, designated a terrorist organization by the U.S. Previously, President Donald Trump also clashed with leading U.S. universities, accusing them of harboring anti-Semitism during large campus protests in support of Palestinian rights. Political will is now the deciding factor in keeping the peace along the Thai-Cambodian border. Political analyst Dr. Pongpisut Busbarat from the Institute of Security and International Studies (ISIS), Thailand warns that without genuine commitment from both sides, trust will remain fragile.
I think in the short to medium term, right, both parties has to have the political will to follow up with this agreement. At least ceasefire has to be warranted, right? I mean, like, it has to be honored by both parties to at least build the first trust that, you know, you're not gonna use, you know, the force, and then, you know, the bilateral mechanisms that, you know, were agreed to use should be continued, should not be stopped, even though, of course, you know, the conflicts prolong. But this is like the mechanism that both parties want to use.
On August 5th, Malaysia brokered a ceasefire after several days of fighting near the Priavia temple, which involved artillery exchanges and forced villagers on both sides to evacuate. But just a week later, the truce was tested when a landmine blast injured at least 3 Thai soldiers on patrol. Pongpisut also said ASEAN could provide the neutral ground needed for dialogue, helping both governments slowly rebuild confidence.
But in the long term, right, of course, ASEAN can help facilitate, and, you know, like, ASEAN has a lot of meetings that both countries has to come to talk to each other, to compromise, to accommodate. So that could build the long-term trust, or rebuild the long-term trust, right? And for both countries, it needs to make their own peoples, right, to understand this is like a, you know, neighboring countries. We should have like a goodwill, right? I mean, we can't really get away from each other, right? Physically, you know, we cannot move Thailand out of Southeast Asia or next to Cambodia, and, you know, vice versa. So, you know, like, mutual coexistence should be the long-term tool to both countries to keep the cooperation going on.
That wraps up AWANI International. Stay tuned for reports on the rivalry strategies and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. Visit international.astroawani.com for more, and be sure to follow our social media accounts. I am Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching, and good night.